this is an amazing knowledge, and it's not spoken often about in that sense. And maybe because people get lost in it, I don't know. But there's certainly an aspect of me that wants to understand. So this is great. So since I know that, how would I use that to figure out, how I can be healthy, and, how to actually figure out what's wrong with me if something is wrong? Where does this pain come from? Where does this thought come from? I'm sure this is not a healthy thought to think, but it's still there. If all of that is a community of things, what modality would help? Or is it not just one, or could any do it?
I think that there's a range of modalities. There's a range of approaches that can be used. There's a range of tools for this job, right?
Yeah.
There's not one tool. And often you'll find people, they've got their favourite tool, and that's really the tool for, humanity. And that saying, when all you've got is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. Well, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So if you ask the surgeon, then it's just like, well, surgery can really help. If you ask the chiropractor, every disease that you meet is a sort of chiropractic deficiency disease. Whereas if you ask an acupuncturist, it's like, what's going wrong with you? What you have here essentially is an acupuncture deficiency. And so for me, I don't think like that. It's not about the tools, and I use a range of different tools.
Yeah.
But I think the meta tool that's relevant to our conversation here as well with fascia. I'm going to try to keep a thread running with fascia through this conversation, because we're going beautifully off into the etheric here, is that in order for all of those parts to stay in relation, right? Because health is a harmonious dance between my hormonal needs, the part of me that needs and wants that aspect of myself, plus my psychological needs, plus my social needs, plus my immunological needs and digestive needs. But sometimes, those things are in clash, right? Mm. It's like my stomach wants to eat, and it really wants to eat, but my wife really wants to talk about something that's very important, and she's all teared up right now, and maybe now is not a good time to just grab a bite, right? So there has to be a place where I put those, there has to be some place that all of those things are welcome, right? And that there's an awareness that can hold them and listen to them. So any practice that helps develop mindfulness and a more expansive and inclusive consciousness that says you're welcome here, all of this is welcome, the pain is welcome, the desire is welcome, the envy is welcome, the chocolate cravings are welcome. However, what we're looking for is the harmony of the whole. I say, I understand you want a chocolate bar, Jimmy, but if we interrupt the wife right now while she's crying and she's saying how she doesn't feel listened to enough in our relationship, although you're going to feel less hungry right now, the overall harmony of your life is going to go down the gurgler. So the tool is any series of tools that start to lead to allow for increased integration, right? Yes. Increased integration and communication of the parts. And so one of those tools, because the subject of our talk today is about fascia, is increased interoceptive awareness, increased body wisdom, not emotional wisdom, not intellectual knowledge, right? Body knowledge and a body quotient, interoceptive quotient. Increased body knowledge is one way to be able to have a more inclusive and expansive and spacious sense, because our body's very wise. So to drop in, if we drop in, it's like, should I get the chocolate right now? My stomach is saying, eat, eat, eat. But if I drop in deeply to my gut feeling, I drop into my heart, I drop in more in all of that way, then a deeper wisdom that says we'll get the chocolate bar after the wife has finished crying, and so that we can do that rather than just trying to solve it with our head or just with our heart, that we can also have access to this other wisdom, which is the wisdom of the body. And so in that regard, then when we come down to this particular talk today that we're having, then increased interoceptive awareness through learning about fascia, through learning embodied practices, through getting in the body in this regard, is certainly a tool that can be one of many tools to help lead to a more harmonious life, a more healthy life.
Yes. I remember before you came online, we were talking about the phenomenon that because it is so connected, like everything is so connected, that you also might be treating a part of the body that is actually not the problem, right? So that there's sometimes, I don't know where this wisdom ever came from and who came up with it, but you're basically saying like you can have an issue there, but you actually come from a very different side. How does that work?
Well, I've got my little Acuman over here, right? Who's got all the sort of meridians that are tattooed onto him and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But what I've done on the back, for people that can't see us who are just listening right now, I've put a great big piece of masking tape that's run just up my dole from the heel all the way to the head. And that piece of masking tape is essentially just showing what's going on with our calves, which are the same thing as our hamstrings, unless you cut them up with a scalpel. Here's the thing, if I cut off, if I scalped my Acuman here, right? And he was dead and I scalped him and I tore off his scalp, but I didn't cut anything up. And I kept tearing, his neck muscles would come off. If I didn't cut anything else off, his back muscles would come off because, of course, his neck's connected to his back. And if I kept tearing, then his buttocks would come off, his hamstrings would come off, and we'd go all the way underneath to the bottom of his foot, because this one strip of muscular tissue here is all absolutely connected, not in an airy-fairy mystical way, like, wow, not like that, like as in anatomy, like it's connected like this piece of tape is connected, like hang it up on your wall connected, like it's obviously connected.
Yeah.
And so that means that when they've done studies where people have had headaches and they've said, let's see how many people get, if stretching the neck can help headaches, then it's just like, stretching the neck can help, a certain, like 40% of people with headaches, right, just from doing this stretch. And then instead, because of this particular relationship that I've taped out for you there, instead they say, let's see what happens when we get people to stretch the hamstrings instead of the neck. And so by loosening up the tension that was pulling on the hamstrings, the tension from the hamstrings that's pulling up on the neck, let's see how many people's headaches get better then. And the same amount of people, 40-odd%, get better. Their headaches get better without touching their head, without touching their neck, simply by stretching their hamstring, because there's a very clear relationship that runs straight up the body there. Imagine you're in a onesie, right? And your onesie is tucked in. You've got a hood on your onesie, but your onesie is tucked in a little too tightly into your sock on your left foot. And then when you move your head in the hood, it can't move quite so freely.
Yeah.
And what you do is you just reach down and untuck the onesie that was tucked in and caught tightly into your sock, and suddenly the hood moves freely because it's like that. Well, fascia is like a onesie.